Today on Moviewallas, we bring you coverage of the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles 2025. It's time for Moviewallas. Hi, this is Joe.
Hi, it's Rashmi.
And Yazdi as well.
Moviewallas is a weekly dose of film reviews, movie news, and general banter in theatres, on DVD, online streaming, in the back of an airplane. If you love the movies, this show is for you. And if you love the movies, you should be at film festivals.
Yes.
We had the great privilege, again, of being able to attend the 2025 Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles. This small film fest has been kind of a favourite of ours for years.
For us,
I think we've probably been covering it on and off for about a decade. And I say on and off, pretty much every year. I think we've been able to cover it, apart from the COVID year, where in fact we even covered it that year because they did a wonderful job of doing a virtual film fest. So once again, IFFLA has come and gone. We did talk about it a couple of podcasts ago, so hopefully if any of you heard and were in the area, you were able to attend. I feel like the fest has kind of shrunken and gotten maybe a little bit more focused these days, so it's not an overwhelming film festival. If you're in the LA area next year, for sure, this is one where you can buy a ticket and see everything.
Yeah.
And I urge you to see everything, because these guys do a fabulous job of picking winners. And I mean, everything that we've seen associated with IFFLA has generally been worth your while.
I know they probably have had some change in hands, but their curation remains exceptional, especially last 2-3 years. I mean, last year, there were films we saw there which were amongst the best films of the year for me,
and made their appearance during award shows later in the year, which was amazing. I mean, Girls Will Be Girls. Yep.
Attam,
Ulugoy,
Ulujum.
Yeah, that one.
So it's great. And I like the fact that I'm only peripherally aware of Indian cinema, even though I grew up in India. I mean, a few things pop up in my social media feeds, but usually they tend to be mainstream stuff, which is releasing in theaters. And I love that the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles goes out and seeks things of quality which are on the horizon and kind of mainstreams them. So it's a really great kind of entry into what's hot, if you will.
Yeah, and I feel like we say this every time we talk about IFFLA, the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles. There is nothing Bollywood about any of the movies that we watched this year or any that we have watched in previous years. These are such contemporary, interesting movies that will blow you away. The quality of Indian subcontinent movie is...
Yes, it's really
up there.
It's really a South Asian film festival.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not going to let you get away with the butchering of that wonderful movie, Ulazuku.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
It's on our website. If you go to moviewallas.com,
thank you for that.
Where we had coverage of the movie, which was called Undercurrent, I think, in its mainstream kind of guise. But Ulazuku was its name. Girls Will Be Girls. And there was also Kill.
Yes.
Kill was screened.
And
I think that was your favorite film of the year.
I loved Kill, yes.
What was the...
All We Imagine Is Light.
All We Imagine Is Light, which came from Cannes, right? Before.
Yeah. It won the second prize, the second highest prize at Cannes. Ulazuku, it sounds weird. It sounds like a tongue twister. It's available to rent for a few bucks on Prime Video. You will not be disappointed. Watch Ulazuku. Ullozhukku.
Perfect.
Anyway. Or Girls Will Be Girls. They're all amazing films.
Yes, absolutely. So, unfortunately, this year, due to scheduling constraints, we were only able to attend one day of the film festival in person. So we covered, we saw 3 movies.
We made the most of the day.
Three sessions, which was all of the Friday sessions in person, which was wonderful, and we'll do our best to kind of continue coverage of IFFLA if we can, if we see and hear any of the other movies come up in due course. But once again, I think all three were winners in their own way. I won't say they were all as accessible as maybe some of the things that we've seen before in the past. There was a very art house feel to the selections of the Friday showing. Should we
let's
kind of jump in and talk about the ones that we saw? So, sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me, but can we recap what the ones we saw were, Rashmi?
So we did, it was called DUI Shaw and Masterclass, which was called From Dhaka to Hollywood, the genre-bending world of Nuhash Humayun. We watched a movie called The Fable, and we watched a movie called Village Rockstars 2.
Thank you. So let's just talk through our day at IFFLA, beginning, I guess, with the masterclass.
Yeah, so this was always a little bit weird. I really wasn't sure what we were sitting down to watch because it said it's masterclass from Dhaka to Hollywood, the genre-bending world of Nuhash Humayun. And the way that particular session was set up was that we watched two almost an hour long episodes.
Yeah, they were about 45 minutes.
45 minute episodes from this horror adjacent television series called DUI Shaw, which is shown in Bangladesh. And so we saw two episodes. I believe it's an anthology of 4 episodes, which were shown on Bangladesh TV or will be shown on Bangladesh TV. So we saw 2 out of those. And then we were treated to a conversation with the very young director of both of those, and his name is Nuhash Humayun. I was not familiar with his work at all, so I was actually very pleasantly surprised to kind of be introduced to his work. I think we all will agree that we are not essentially horror people, and we can talk more about this, but I was just amazed that this particular individual, who, by the way, we first got to know, it was last year or the year?
I'm just trying to find the
year before. He made this short called Moshari.
Yeah.
And Moshari was about this post-apocalyptic world where 2 sisters are hiding under a mosquito net and some creature is out to get them. And that little short got so well recognized and word got around. It won the best jury prize for short film at South by Southwest.
And it was a great short. We actually mentioned it during that review. During the review of IFFLA that year.
Yeah, no, again, if you want to check out our website, it was covered by us in episode 495 of Moviewallas, and I time-stamped it at 12 minutes into the podcast. So you can go right there just to kind of listen to that.
And that short film, essentially, through word of mouth, got him executive producer credits from none other than Jordan Peele and Riz Ahmed, and now he's working on a full-length feature based on that short with executive directors Jordan Peele and Riz Ahmed. So he's really made that amazing leap from, working in a genre area from a third world country such as Bangladesh to kind of being now, rubbing shoulders with the Hollywood elite. So that's what this was. So what did you guys think about the 2 episodes as well as, the discussion with him?
Yep. So the 2 episodes that we watched, I'm just trying to find them here, are called Waqt, which means time.
Right.
And the second one was called Antara, I believe.
Yes.
I was really impressed. Like you said, Yazdi, I don't love horror. I don't like jump scares. But the concept of karma, there was a lot of spirituality without shoving religion down your face. They were very thought-provoking ideas in both of these episodes. So one episode was about 5 college kids who vandalize a temple. And the second episode was about a hand reader, a palm reader.
A fortune teller, yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed both of those episodes. Initially, I didn't understand what we were watching, but beautifully contained anthology. And I want to get my hands on the other 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think, Rashmi, you may have missed, as part of the introduction, the fact that this was going to be episodic in nature. I wasn't sure if there were going to be connected threads or anything like that. But look, we saw 2 episodes of what will be some sort of a serialized a TV or movie, or I'm not sure where and how it'll be distributed, but it was very reminiscent of Twilight Zone / Tales of
Black
the Unexpected.
Mirror.
Well, not Black Mirror because it has such a technology slant, but certainly, there's a show back on in the 80s in the UK called Tales of the Unexpected, where you have and it was very, very planted in the horror genre. But I think the director, even by his own admission afterwards, said these could be cut into kind of maybe something less horror. But look, the first episode was about a group of people who desecrate a temple of another faith, and consequences come to bear. Very, very playfully done. There was this sense of dread that kept building and building, because all of them one by one were slowly gonna get paid the consequences. The second one was one of the palm reader, who had some unexpected consequences of his own actions, and so. Again, these protagonists weren't necessarily sympathetic, but it was really fun watching the stories play out and build. And there was marvelous tension and suspense through all.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Yazdi, before you speak, the first one was very much like It Follows meets Final Destination, meets The Ring. It was really good horror. It was really well done.
I mean, I think he would be one of, hundreds of other filmmakers who are trying to, create exciting, inventive, fun horror. But I think I was surprised to find how accomplished he is. I think what separates him from, very gifted other filmmakers who are working in the horror genre is how easily, maybe it's not so easy, maybe it's years and years of work, but how easily he uses the horror setup to comment on everything that is wrong with Southeast Asia, right? He talks about corruption. He talks about abuse of power. He talks about, faith
corruption of religion.
Corruption of religion, about faith wars, about how, the oppressors will always try to eat the oppressed. So there's and on social media and, the power of, your Instagram reel. And so it's very off the moment, and it's also very angry, and it's very morally outraged, all of those. But at the same time, they're so juicy. I loved how pulpy they were. Like the first one, it at one point it became just like, what is the more ingenious way the next person's going to die? And it never disappointed.
Correct.
It never, there's one, I don't want to spoil it, but there's one.
So don't.
I won't. There's one which I'm like, oh my God, how did he even think of this? It was so smart. So, I'm glad I attended that, because now I'm going to follow this person's career.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the second one, the second episode also tapped on, our Asian directive to always take care of, the elderly at any cost. And about, it kind of played with, if you were a fortune teller and if you could see things, why wouldn't you change your own life? And it kind of reminded a little bit of like Yorgos Lanthimos, where you set up your absurd rules, but then you stick with those absurd rules.
Yes,
that's a great observation. I think we are going to see pretty phenomenal things from this young guy. We were lucky enough to do the Q&A with him afterwards, which was the masterclass itself. And he's so driven and has such clarity of vision around what he wants to produce, that even though some of the work seemed a teeny tiny bit amateurish, I think he will get to a place, and Joe, you're shaking your head, The amateurish, I think, he is ensconced in Southeast Asia. And I think that once he's able to maybe come out of that and do a more generic, then we'll see great things.
The only reason I shook my head was I think you're using the wrong word. I think he's budget constrained.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What seems amateurish is being inventive with what little you have.
Correct.
Fair point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Correct. So I don't think it's a lack of talent. I think it's a lack of resources.
Yeah.
And I think when he's given resources, I mean, Lord knows what he's going to be able to create.
Okay. Yes.
So I mean, again, this is one of those moments where I feel like we're seeing the birth of a greater talent. That will possibly become a household name. He's not shy about his desires and career trajectory, and I think he's showcasing his talent with what he can do. With limited resources and budget. I think he's very wisely put this material right in the heart of Hollywood here in IFFLA, and I think he understands how this game gets played. And I think it's one thing to be talented, but you have to be discovered as well.
Yeah.
And I think getting this material out, showcasing the talent will lead him. But again, these movies, these two little episodes were so fun. Were so effective at telling their little stories, and I can't say much more than that in terms of if you get the chance to see them, and I'm going to be looking for them like you, Yazdi, and if we see an opportunity for a link or some sort of a service where you can see these, we'll definitely try and put that on a future Moviewallas episode, as I don't know what to watch on video on demand because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I just want to commend IFFLA, because this is not technically a film from India. It's from Bangladesh, or this filmmaker is from Bangladesh. So it's not India, it's India adjacent. And this filmmaker has not made any feature films yet, right? But they have the foresight to see him as a rising talent and to create this little session at IFFLA this year. So all kudos to them.
Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next one then, which is the movie The Fable. And this is a movie written and directed by someone called Raam Reddy. And apparently he wrote and directed a movie called Tithi from 2015. But the log line for this one is Dev owns orchards and lives on a sprawling estate. After finding burnt trees, Dev monitors workers and nomads fall under suspicion. Despite night guards, a huge fire engulfs the mountainside, and Dev uses violence in his search. So this stars, actually, Yazdi, you were telling me some quite major Bollywood actors like Manoj Bajpayee and Priyanka Bose. Yeah. But there's others credited in this movie as well.
And Tilottama Shome, who's very well regarded. She has a small role as well.
Yes. So what did you guys think of this feature film called The Fable? Joe?
I mean, this was a puzzle box of a thing, but a very engaging one. I mean, I think, the biggest... and look, I have to admit, one of the rules of Moviewallas is we don't talk about movies until we record the podcast, but the exception is always film festivals, and we do that partly to unpack what we've seen and process that before we talk about this. So we have already kind of touched upon this thing. So you guys know my feelings about this in many ways. I admired this movie so much for its sense of place, its sense of it's some of its big themes that it brings to the table. I think there's an element to this movie which the title alludes to, which we as the audience aren't necessarily given full explanation of, at least not until the very end of the movie. So in some ways it's a little bit of a frustrating experience, but in many ways the marvel of the filmmaking and the performances and the acting and the family and the location and the interaction of the villages and this kind of mystery of what's going on. It can be a slow burn at times, but but this movie was never anything less than absolutely engaging for me.
Yazdi.
Yeah, this is a movie of tremendous ambition. Kudos to this filmmaker. He had something in his mind, and then the implementation is just jaw-dropping, how well it's been executed. I'll be lying if I said I didn't struggle with this movie. I struggled with this movie to understand, like, is it a dog? Is it a cat? Is it a wolf? What is this movie, right? I mean, I was like, is this movie trying to be a warning? Is this movie trying to be fantastical? Is this movie about, about class? Is this movie just a nostalgic piece about somebody who grew up at a particular time and place? And after some point, I realized maybe this movie is never going to tell us what it is. It's never going to, reveal its hand. And I just started enjoying it for this immersion of this time and place. But it took me a while because I fought with this movie for a long time. And I was a little frustrated. I'm just repeating myself. I was a little frustrated, but once I just gave in, I could appreciate it for a lot of the movie is shot outdoors. It's all shot in a particular part of, northeastern India. I don't know where it was shot. Assam, close to the Himalayas, somewhere there. It's of a particular time. It's not contemporary. The acting, there are implications about certain relationships between different people. There are people who get accused of things. And I was like, where is this movie going? Eventually, the movie in its last 3 minutes, I think, gives you an idea, or 2 minutes, gives you an idea of where it was headed all along.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, it wasn't enough. And we've talked about, maybe while they were making it, they were not sure themselves. And, this movie could be this or this movie could be that. But having said all of those things, I've been rambling. I bow at how ambitious it is and what a wonderfully realized piece of work it is. Mm-hmm. Nobody is phoning it in. All the actors, how it's being filmed, the opening shot of the movie, which is a single unbroken shot, which just makes you drop. It ends with the jaw dropping on your floor. It's all a work of somebody with a lot of passion. I just don't know right now who I would recommend this movie to because it's so amorphous, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, what Yazdi said, I didn't hate this movie at all. Yeah. I admired it a lot. I think this is a filmmaker with a clear vision of what type of movie he wants to make. I think it needed one more edit. And I think it needed a slightly stronger narrative. I think when I read the introduction, yes, it's about all of those things. But like you said, Yazdi, there's a lot of other stories going on. And we couldn't necessarily separate the wheat from the chaff. And so I think if there had been one more edit with a much clearer direction of what they wanted to get to, this would have been a phenomenal movie. But I appreciated the fact that it is a wonderful story about a family that's very well realized. And I feel like I've been to their house and I've met them and I spent time with them, right? I feel like I literally feel like I've had a vacation with this family. And that's beautiful. And the way it's told and the sense of place felt almost like an Enid Blyton novel of ye olde time. I just wish that it had a much tighter narrative, storytelling-wise.
I'm going to draw parallels to much of this movie and one of my favorite films from last year, which is I'm Still Here.
Exactly. I was just looking that up.
Oh, yeah. So, because it's sense of the workings of a family and their interpersonal relationships and the parenting, all of that sense of place and time, and it's shot on 16mm film, which gives it this kind of very grainy, textured, retro kind of look. There's a lot of deliberate decisions being made into kind of giving this warmth to this kind of family dynamic that's at play. In spite of what's going on around, you kind of understand who these people are and what they're about and why they're trying to live this existence. Their interaction with locals, because they're clearly of the aristocracy relative to the people that work for them, but they're very caring. They do good things. They look after the people who are working for them. And there's, like you say, Yazdi, the class observation that you made earlier is absolutely right on the money. I mean, what do you do when there's clearly someone sabotaging the world that you've built and the good things that you're doing, and you're concerned it might be the people who you're trying to
work for you
and trying to help. But there's definitely like some what does one do with that moment? And you can see all of those moments as the family try to struggle and deal with somebody who is destroying their world systematically, and they don't know why, and they don't know what the motive is, and yet it keeps happening. So, all of that is done really beautifully.
Yeah,
well.
It just felt so surreal and ethereal and flighty at times.
No, I think it felt very grounded.
Really? So for me, it felt like...
I think part of the greatness of this movie clearly then is how we all interpret it in different ways. And I think, there's good and bad there. I think, it leaves itself open to that interpretation, which is a good thing. But I think the bad thing is, I think we all saw different movies that are kind of in contrast to each other, and not all of us received it as gracefully as the other.
Yeah.
Yazdi.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Joe, you made the very, very astute observation after we saw the movie that this movie could be cut. It's so rich and so textured and so layered and so grounded, like you said. It could be cut any number of ways to be a different kind of movie. It is what it is. And I almost would love to speak with the film director and know if the intent all along was to end it this way, or if it was, something that was... Although I think the more I think about it, I think it was always intended to be this way. But it's so well crafted. It's so well crafted that you can almost, like when you have a good base that you cook, you can make a pasta from that base, or you could make a biryani from that base. I really want to see what this person is going to do next, because I could have spent a lot of time with this family, just seeing what was going on amongst them, all their little slights and angers, and it all seemed very naturalistic.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I could make probably half a dozen edits and remove about maybe 4 to 6 minutes of footage to get the movie that I actually saw without some of the frustrating elements, and it be like one of my favorite films that I've seen. And I know exactly which cuts to make. I think they're very obvious once you step out of the theater, which ones to make.
Yeah.
And then you would be left with, I think, a movie that is on par with I'm Still Here.
Okay.
The insertions that are made with those edits that remain take this movie to a different place that I don't quite understand. And so that leaves me a little frustrated. But I think, again, I can't knock the artist for their artistry. He has a vision here, and maybe it's not entirely apparent to me, but it's nonetheless to be admired.
Okay, let's move on. Last film, which was Village Rockstars 2.
Okay, so I'm going to just talk a little bit about this movie, which is a sequel, you can tell by the number 2, of a movie that was made a few years ago, branded as kind of a documentary / narrative movie. So, we'll talk a lot about that when we get into our discussion. The director is Rima Das. She was at the film festival and spoke following the movie about all of the filmmaking. Now, when I call her the director, that's kind of underselling what she did here, because Rima Das is the director, she is the producer, she is the screenwriter, she is the cinematographer, she is the editor.
Casting director,
and the movie stars a number of her family members,
yes,
including the lead protagonist, character by the name of Dunu, who is played by her cousin.
I did not know that.
I've been obsessed with this movie since we watched it, and so these are things that I picked up on in my kind of desperate search to find Village Rockstars 1. It's a movie that we didn't see, but
you found it.
It is apparently available streaming on one of the services, so I intend fully to exploit that one when we get a moment. But again, just to read the description here from the IFFLA website, Rima Das returns to the world of Village Rockstars with a beautifully lyrical sequel that deepens the themes of resilience, longing, and the quiet strength of rural childhood. In Village Rockstars 2, we reunite with Dunu as she navigates the cusp of adulthood, her dreams still flickering amid the unrelenting realities of village life. Guys, what did you think of Village Rockstars 2?
So I was impressed with this one. I thought it was a documentary because I truly believed I was watching a documentary. And then my head exploded off my neck when I realized this was a narrative. Because then I was just blown away at how good this captured everything. I'm floored by this movie. I can't stop thinking about it. Because again, I honestly thought we were watching a documentary. So I thought it was a camera set up and then people just going about their day and doing their thing over a period of time. I'm blown away.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of Rima Das's film. I know her when Village Rockstars, the original, came out. It got a lot of recognition and fanfare. And then she's been making other movies. She's made one other movie called Bulbul Can Sing, which I've seen, which is amazing. I remember
you told me. Yeah. I think I've seen it too.
I saw it at the Toronto International Film Festival. But, I think, so, if somebody, if your cousin wants to go watch a movie one Saturday afternoon, I would not recommend that they watch, either one. Because I think both of these movies are movies of immersion. They are meditative. They take their time. They try to capture the place and the people. When they make movies, they say you should be brutal and just chop at the editing board and just leave the bare bones of your movie. That's not what Rima Das does. She is adding. And she wants you to get a sense for how these characters interact. How do they physically touch each other? Like what makes them angry? So this is a very immersive experience. It's a movie you need to watch with a clear head and let it kind of wash over you. And how often can you say that about movies?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing accomplishment that you thought. And it's
honestly, I'm blown away.
It's the fact that you thought it was a documentary and it could very well pass for
totally.
It's so spare and it's so
real,
and it's there's something Spartan about it. It's
gritty.
It's never trying to be look ma no hands, right? It's very, very simple in its storytelling. I mean, I say this in the best possible way possible, which is that I got tired of seeing just shots of the lead protagonist staring at something.
Yes.
There's about 32 of them in the movie. Maybe I didn't count. There's about 32 of them. But that speaks to the confidence in this filmmaker and how she wants to just set the mood for the place and this particular character. I see a lot of, this movie was shown at the Spring Festival showcase for the San Diego Asian Film Festival a couple of weeks ago. And it was preceded, they showed both Village Rockstar 1 and 2, and it was preceded by Satyajit Ray's Pathar Panchali and Brian who curated it, said that if you look at Rima Das's work, she owes a lot to Satyajit Ray, and I can see that there's so much of Village Rockstars 2 that you see in Pathar Panchali. It's about a simple family on the fringe of society, and it has no interest in anything else. And anyway, I mean, I am very effusive about this movie because it's quite a remarkable achievement. But again, I want to warn people, this is for those who want to soaking in, right? If you want a movie to just soak your soul, then this is the movie to watch. Don't watch this movie if you're in a hurry, if you need to be somewhere else, if you need to check your emails, all of that. You will hate this movie. You will be like, what is this? This movie is nothing. But if you let it soak you, soak you, it's an amazing.
Yes. I mean, as I was watching it, and it's long and it's slow, I was thinking, when is this going to end? Because the main protagonist endures so much. And I wanted the endurance to be over. But again, now I'm looking back at it like a feature. The acting just blows me away. I'm just stunned by how good this is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the performance is... I often think, when you're directing children and maybe inexperienced actors, I think the importance of the director's vision can't be understated. And I think she knew exactly what she was going for with every single one of these scenes. And I think she's given the actors a lot of direction. That's not to take away from their performance, but I think a large part of this movie was made in the edit room. Mm-hmm. I think, she's shot, I can only imagine what, is days and days and days worth of footage that she's kind of spliced together and created something that is just pure cinema. But you're right, Yazdi. I mean, look, I sound very, I'm gushing here. And in the moment, I was watching. We were there with a family member who attended the film festival with us, and somebody who, is very mainstream, I guess, in her movie tastes. And so I was wondering what she would have made of this, and I think it was a difficult movie for her. Although I do think that she kind of enjoyed it overall. But I mean, to all the points you're making, Yazdi, this is like a Terrence Malick-y, Chloe Zhao type
absolutely
type of experience where it rewards patience, and you don't really appreciate it for what it is until a day or two after you've left the theater.
Yeah.
So I think this thing was magical.
Yay. That's the festival.
Yeah.
Well, that was our coverage of the festival. So again, the festival wrapped up today, I think, on the day of recording here, which is Sunday, May 11th. So again, I mean, I'm going to make sure that we advocate for these films and for these filmmakers, because I think everything we saw was, none of it was broad. So I think, this was one of those...
These are more niche.
This is one of those days at a film festival where, you, as a lover of film, it pays dividends. I think, if you take somebody in who only ever watches Marvel movies, and
they're going to kill you.
They may not have as good a time here. But I think, again, we universally recommend film festivals to people who love film. And I think if you listen to Moviewallas, I would count you among them. And so I don't know that there's any one of these movies that I think would be a waste of your time to watch, because, we enjoyed all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, if you noticed my clickety-clack, I wasn't being rude, but I'm actually, while you were talking, I'm actually sending out requests, to get screeners for some of the films we missed, especially the ones which won the audience award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the more, if we can get our hands on them and we watch them, we will also happily review those.
Well, right, and I think the important thing here is that we have a platform here. So if there are ways for us to, if you're the filmmakers and you're listening to our podcast, if your movie is available somewhere, if you've secured some sort of a distribution deal, drop us a line, because we will happily promote your work to our listeners. And that to me is one of the joys of film festivals. These little undiscovered nuggets of magic.
Yes.
Which is why we always say, attend film festivals. Don't listen to podcasts. Don't listen to us.
Yes.
Don't go and see Thunderbolts 25. Spend a little time and money and go to see something like this. I think there's no one that wouldn't be rewarded by that.
Okay.
I'm getting the sense that
signals.
We should be wrapping up. So yes, we do have somewhere else to be very shortly after this podcast. So again, thank you to the organisers of IFFLA for the opportunity and privilege of being able to cover this film festival. I mean, I know that this is it's a two-way thing, but we do very much appreciate the organisation and the effort of putting together
amazing
such a wonderful
curation.
film festival. The work that you do is fabulous. So thank you, organisers of IFFLA, all of our friends at IFFLA. We appreciate your work, and thank you to the volunteers that do the film festival. Again, you know, to some extent, Yazdi, we were talking before the show, if we can get the word about IFFLA a little earlier next year, I think it's really important. If you are in Southern California and you are within driving distance of IFFLA, then really shame on you for not going to this particular gem of a film festival.
Especially if you are in Southern California and, you know, if you're the kind of person who bemoans there's nothing good to watch and there's too much nonsense on streaming, you know, you can do your part to kind of further the cause of recognition of good quality film as well as television by attending IFFLA. So, you know, we have been long proponents and strong champions for it, and we can hope to continue to do so. And on that note,
thank you again for listening. Moviewallas is on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. Do check out our Instagram and our YouTube coming up, because we did some red carpet pictures of us.
Oh yes,
at the film festival. So I'll post a couple of renditions that we have there. That was a lot of fun. We will be back with more Moviewallas in the not too distant future. We have 4 screenings next week, including Mission Impossible, the final conclusion. So we are looking forward to that, as well as the sequel to the movie Talk to Me. So not sequel, but the follow-up rather to the movie Talk to Me, and a couple of others. So exciting times. The year is in full gear. We will be back with more podcasts soon. Until then, too many movies, too little time. A goodbye from me.
And me.
And me as well.